Hi there and welcome to the show. I'm Nancy Guppy, coming to you this week from the glorious tulip fields of Skagit Valley, Washington. Now this is the Rosengard, I think that's how you say it, Rosengard, a farm, and they've got a beautiful 3-acre kind of show garden which is kind of close to the entrance, just lovely. And then of course these amazing huge fields of tulips. Now this obviously looks good on your little screen, whether it's your phone or your computer, but I'm telling you, in person, this is an absolute knockout. So the tulips are, I don't know, they're kind of peaking in the next couple of weeks. So if you want to experience this with your own eyes, plan your trip soon. All right, in addition to this incredible nature-made art, we have also got some great human-made art, including a new song from R.L. Zahyr and friends, a new exhibit at Fogue Gallery, and a new cookbook celebrating the life of Tom Stockley. And we'll begin with Zahyr Lauren, a visual artist whose bold, exquisitely detailed works are inspired by the power of the story of Black history and by the incredible magnificence of the natural world.
My name is Zahyr Lauren. I'm an artist, human historian, and what I like to call a space architect. To someone who's never experienced my art, I think I would describe it as an attempt through space and color to really breathe into what it means for me to be a part of the Black community. It is hard for me when folks are like, oh, it's abstract art, or it's this type of art, or it's that type of art. And I think it's hard for me because I didn't come from the arts community. So the lingo and the putting things in a box, that type of stuff doesn't really work for me. But I think I would describe it as a visual experience that I want you to feel. I'm from San Jose, California. I come from a strong Black Southern matriarchy. I'm very proud of my lineage. My grandmother, who recently passed, Clementine Smith, she came from Depew, Oklahoma. My grandmother, in her teen years, shepherded herself and I think it was 12 brothers and sisters from Depew, Oklahoma to Richmond, California on the train. So, you know, a lot of little young Black ducklings coming by themselves across country, I think is an amazing story. I started being interested in math really young, and it just has always been something that I found to be so beautiful. The way math is structured is essentially, you know, you have your equation at the top, and then as you break down those problems, it kind of has this beautiful symmetry and it turns into these triangles. There's so many signs and symbols that are wispy and otherworldly. All along the way, there have been Black folks in my realm who have just been like, you're good at this, keep doing this. In high school, I did trig, geometry of course, algebra. I did abstract algebra, multivariable calculus. I let it go in college, and I think that was more because I realized that I wanted to work with people more than I wanted to be in a lab or, you know, crunching numbers. The legal field was attractive to me because I have a very beloved family member who at a very early age found himself at the end of a police gun. And when he came home and he made it out alive of that interaction, I was 13. And I remember being infuriated. To this day, it just makes me so angry because this is somebody that we came so close to losing. And so from then on, I started to really investigate what I could do to be a kind of protective measure for my community. And so I started studying things like I studied the Black Panther Party, particularly the women in the Black Panther Party, because there's not a lot that comes out about them. So everybody in this country, generally people think like how it's on TV. You go in, you got your attorney goes with you to court. That's not how it works if you don't have any money. And that's what made me want to go to law school. So I went to Northeastern University Law, took the bar in New York, and was an attorney in New York for a couple years. I was working with folks living in poverty who were overwhelmingly Black and Latinx and Indigenous. From the age of 13, when I really understood what it meant to be skin color Black and have a family that's skin color Black, it consistently, since I was young, has meant suffering in various different ways. Poverty, incarceration, houselessness, all these different things. And so, it really sat with me that this is not an accident. It's just not, it can't be, because it's too consistent. What happened to me was that because of the stress and trauma that I had experienced in this country and doing the jobs I was doing and living as myself, I lost my ability to walk about 2 years into being an attorney. Quite literally, my right leg just gave out. I couldn't get up without extreme pain. I couldn't do anything. And that was scary because I was 29. And so I'm thinking, man, am I like forever not about to be able to walk now? During that time, I discovered through drawing a card for a friend that the stress and the trauma and everything I was experiencing was kind of just evaporated. And so I had these moments of solace and just freedom in my own mind. And so I started to do that obsessively. So I would get up in the morning, draw for several hours before work, come home, draw for another multiple hours after work, every day, every day, every day. And something chemically, I think, happened for me because there was no release for what I had seen and what I had been living up until that time. And so once I started drawing, there was a release, which I think for me meant everything. The drawing for me and the painting is so important that in my lifetime now, very important people in my family, when I pursue new opportunities, their first question is not how much you're gonna make, it's will you have time to draw? The natural world influences everything I do. When I'm listening to things, a lot of times I'll listen to music that has the sounds of trees in the background or water. The natural world has a way of producing patterns. The natural world is like the craziest geometry. There's nothing better than natural geometry. I mean, whether you're talking about Fibonacci function and how that influences pineapples and the shape of like all kind of different things, seashells. Take a leaf off of anything outside right now, you'll see a very distinct patterning there. It's fascinating to me, and it always has been. So I do take a lot of natural elements and put them in these pieces. There's a piece that I have that I started on February 23rd, a few years ago. And I'm doing that piece and I'm thinking about the beauty of youth. And it's a turtle because my godchild really loved turtles at the time. So I'm putting all that in here. About a month later, I find out February 23rd is the same day that Ahmaud Arbery was murdered. So then it becomes a meditation on his mother and the safety of the rest of his family. And then I find out about a month after that Breonna Taylor is murdered. So then it became a meditation on Breonna Taylor and her family and the beauty of Black women. And so there are diamonds in that piece all around the border. Each one of those 28 diamonds are representations of 28 Black women who've been murdered by police. And so for me, these are all diamonds taken from us. These are all, the value of these people will never be known because they've been taken from us. What they could have done for our community has been taken from us. And so for me, it's a matter of sitting down and capturing the spirit and the energy and the resilience of a people in as beautiful way as possible. I want our spirits to feel adorned. I want us to be able to be going through this stuff and to look at these pieces and feel uplifted. There's a certain human story that has actually happened in this country that people refuse to acknowledge. And so what that does is it makes it so that we're supposed to just move about the cabin as if everything is completely equal and equitable and not acknowledging anything that's happened. And without any anger, just look how far you've gotten, just, be quiet now. This type of thing, when there's so much still happening, when there's so much inequity. And I feel like it is of critical importance for all children to know the true human story of this country. I feel like when we see things starting to repeat, because the human story is not actually being taught. And so the point for me is acknowledging that full human experience and doing the work that I need to do to uplift the spirit of what it means to overcome what we've been through and to still be here.
Zahyr will be selling prints and limited edition patches at their annual Juneteenth sale, opening June 19th and running through July 17th. Preview the work on Instagram and on Zahyr's website, cororulesthesun.inc. Tom Stockley was a reporter for the Seattle Times when, in 1973, he started a weekly wine column that became hugely popular and helped revolutionize Washington State's fledgling wine industry. A much-loved wine critic, public figure, foodie, and friend, Tom and his wife Peggy were two of the 88 passengers and crew members who died in the crash of Alaska Flight 261 on January 31st, 2000. 21 years later, Tom and Peggy's daughters, Paige and Dina, celebrate their dad's lived philosophy that food and wine are meant to be shared in a new book called A Collection of My Favorite Things to Cook, plus notes and comments on culinary travels everywhere. Dina and Paige, it's so great to see you, and congratulations on the book.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So this book, to me, it's a love letter from the two of you to your dad, mom, from them to you and your families and to the community at large. It's packed with your dad's charming, handwritten material, recipes, travel notes, memorable menus. Where did you find all these great writings?
The journal itself was always sitting around the houseboat. We sort of knew about it, but didn't pay much attention to it. And we have a lot of photos and a lot of material from their travels, other journals and letters and so on. So it was actually a fun project for us.
And when you were curating it and going over it all, did you learn anything new about your parents?
I would say probably not, because it was not a secret that they were great hosts. So many people had dinner at the houseboat. The joke is, when we were at college, we thought they were like, sad empty nesters who were like begging for a letter from us, but they were actually having one party after the next. So my dad was collecting, always new recipes to try on his audience. They aren't family recipes. They aren't recipes that we recognize. We're like, oh, that's a cool one.
No, you write that you never saw your dad break a sweat in the kitchen. Describe what it was like to watch your dad cook.
Hi, Paige.
Okay, I know, I do love to talk about that. Yeah, and I swear to God, it's the truth. You would walk into the houseboat and he would be maybe stirring a little pot, and then he'd come in and give you a glass of wine, and then my mom would start telling funny stories, and then magically this plate of angel hair pasta would appear, flecked with sun-dried tomatoes and perhaps a shrimp or two. And then you would have that, the dishes vanish. I have no idea who took them away. And then another course would come, and then a little salad, and wine flowed, and we'd go to the back deck, and kayakers and ducks passed, and there seemed to be no dishes, and all was well.
It was magic.
It's like a beautifully choreographed dance that's just super organic. Do you have a favorite recipe in the book? Or favorite dish?
Domitil's meatballs, I do make pretty often. And the Moroccan chicken also is another dish. It's hard to pick a favorite dish because every dish has a context. The chicken and cornbread salad is the perfect potluck dish. Everyone should make it for every potluck. It's sort of hard to select one, but there are recipes that we do on repeat, at least in my house.
Last night we had the bouillabaisse with this roux sauce. I'd never had it before. It was delicious, and so that's going to be my new go-to. I'm going to make that all the time. So everyone knows your dad wrote a highly influential Seattle Times wine column for close to 30 years, and he also wrote the first book on Washington wineries when there were like 8, I believe, in the state. Mm-hmm. So I'm curious, when you see today's multi-million-dollar Washington state wine industry, do you ever think my dad had something to do with that? Yes.
Yeah, we do think that.
Our dad early on kind of set various standards for those early winemakers, and they just kept trying to improve and, raise the bar. And then, of course, you can't have great wine without people drinking great wine. So he educated the Seattle palate by also convincing everyone that it was affordable. Mm-hmm. This was the other thing, like wine was for fancy people. No, in Italy, they just have table wine and it's like practically cheaper than water. You can do it too.
Now, you write about the constant flow of dinner parties on your parents' houseboat, which I still wish I'd been able to attend one. So how did the way that they entertained and welcomed people to their table, how did that influence the way you view food, meals, and community?
It was the sharing of food. Everyone who walked in the door felt welcome. And I think that as much as the food, that openness and that sharing of the experience, we do it a lot. Dinner parties are a family tradition, absolutely, and picnics.
If you could share a meal with your mom and dad today, where would it take place and what would it be? What would be on the menu?
Mm. Mm. Well, for me, it's okay. I can think of what I might want him to cook, but it'd be more like the ease of someone else doing all the work and it being kind of effortless. And I already know that if they were around today, that who knows what he'd be cooking. Could be maybe he'd be into Morocco by now. What about you, Dina? I don't know what you're.
Well, again, it's such a hard question because everything was fantastic. All the food was so good. It's hard to pick out a meal. We talk a little bit in the book about all the picnics we had over the years, which were, hundreds. Those always sort of stick out in my mind. I think just wherever we were, we would bring a basket of food and a bottle of wine and a wine opener.
Well, it's really a beautiful biography of lives well lived. It's very touching and very moving. So congratulations on the book, and thank you very much for talking with me.
Well, thank you for having us. It's great.
And cheers, as our father would say.
And cheers. I'll fake cheers. Oh, there you go. The perfect afternoon amount.
Yeah.
Get your copy of A Collection of My Favorite Things to Cook at tomstockleycookbook.com. Our musical guest this week is the very talented R.L. Zahyr, who recently released Bring Our Hearts Together. Joining R.L. to perform the new single is Melissa Montalto and Tim Kennedy.
While it seems so clear to you and me that what we need is unity, there is so much fighting in the streets. It's been going on for years, not weeks. How warm it could be and so serene if we could finally find some peace and bring all of our hearts together.
Just because you're wrong doesn't mean I'm right. If we don't agree, we don't need to fight. We can die straight and rappers delight. It's not enough just to be polite. In the darkness shines a light. There's a throne on top of a billion spikes. What we need is to bring our hearts together.
When Jesus tried, he was slain to reach our hearts, not just our brains. But did you miss the point? Because now you say we should kill and divide all in his name. Preaching and doing are not the same. It's no way to live with regret and shame. What we need is to bring our hearts together.
Well, it's a noble concept to be sure. You're only as rich as the poor is poor. How much suffering can you endure? Will you spread the cancer while you hide the cure? Nostalgia is a test, so put us on our next reunion.
Bring Our Hearts Together is available as a download on Bandcamp, and the song will be included on Friends and Family, RL's new record slated for release this summer. Before wrapping up, we want to give a shout out to Ruthless, a group show at Georgetown's Fogue Gallery featuring artworks by 10 artists inspired by the late great and notorious RBG. Ruthless runs through April 30th, and more information, including gallery hours, is at foguestudios.com. And that's a wrap. A reminder to plan your trip to the land of tulips, and you can get more information about Rosengard Fields at tulips.com. Now you might be wondering, why is Nancy crouched down in this field of dirt next to a weed? Well, the short answer is that we were kicked out because we were too cheap to buy a photography permit, and you need one in order to shoot at the glorious Rosengard Fields. So this is how we're going to end it. And you know, I think, hear me out. What if we planted this entire field with these beautiful yellow flowers, and I think people might come here and want to, you know, look at them and get their picture taken. And you know what? Who am I fooling? No, that's not going to happen. I wouldn't do it. This is a weed, and there's nothing wrong with a weed, but honestly, it's not worth a drive, a day trip up to Skagit Valley, at least to me. So I guess next time we'll spring for the whatever it was. What was it, Joe?
Photography permit.
Well, how much?
$100.
$100. That's a lot of money.
And now an improvised poem entitled, Nancy?
Stop looking at me.
Stop in the name of looking at me. Look at the tulips instead. They are beauty, I ugly. Beauty flows like the mountains, like the helicopters and the drones that are currently not present, but the tulips are always here, always rooted in the soil of urgency. Take heed, O humans, and be the tulip.
Yeah. Excellent. Yeah, snap, snap, baby.